Alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to make this linen bikini top. So this is actually a custom order. Because this is a custom order, I just freehanded this. So what I would start off by doing is take measurements of a cup or a swimsuit cup that you feel like covers you enough, because you want to make sure that this part is going right above like your areola and your nipples. You don't want it to be showing. So just from like this outside border all the way up, earlier when I measured this, it was about 4.5 inches when I measured it before. So this cup sits sideways, so you just want to make sure that you're taking measurements enough to give you coverage. And then what we can do is that if this is not big enough for you, we can talk about adding on additional rows down here. That way it fits your preference. The yarn that I am using is, I love this yarn. It actually recommends that you use a 5mm hook, but we are going to use a 3.5. I have 4 colors, and I would recommend using a cotton yarn if you're going to make a bikini, just because it's a lot softer on the skin. If you do want to use acrylic, that's also fine. You could also like sew on a lining so that you're not irritated, or you can either get one of those like swimsuit cups that you can kind of cut and like sew on, but you have other options. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, we're gonna start off by making a magic circle. Alright, so once you have your magic circle, you're gonna chain 2. 1, 2. This counts as your first double crochet. So in total, we want to have 7 double crochets in here. So this is 1. And we just need to do 6 more. Seven. So you want to make sure you have 7. And now we can go ahead and close our circle. Okay, so now we're going to chain 2. We're going to turn our work, and we're going to do an increase in all of these. We want to make this 14. So this is our first one, 2, 3, 4, 13, 14. All right, so your second round should look like this. So on to round 3, we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and for this one we are going to do 2 double crochets and an increase. So this one counts as our first one, so this is 2. And then our increase, again 2 double crochets, so 1, 2, increase, okay, so then now we just have to do an increase. Our increase is going to look a little funky here. If you actually take a step back and look at it, you can see that it looks like it's missing something. So we're going to do an increase like right in this. Okay, so then now it should really be like a crescent. It should be pretty flat towards here. All right, so now that we're done with this round, we're gonna chain 2 and we're gonna turn our work. And this time we're gonna do 3 double crochets and an increase. So this is our 1, this is 2, this is 3, and then an increase. Okay, And then you're just going to continue that all the way down to the end. You always want to end on an increase. Alright, so we finished our increase on that last round. So now we're going to go into round 5. So we're going to do chain 2, turn our work, and this time we're going to do 4 double crochets and an increase. So we're going to do 4, so this counts as 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do an increase. Okay, and then do that all the way down, and I'm going to meet you at the last one, which should be an increase. Okay, so we're on to our last stitch here, which needs to be our increase. So we're going to do our increase into this last one here. All right, now we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and then we're going to do 5 in an increase. So this makes 2, 3, 4, 5, and then our increase. Okay, we're going to do that all the way into the end. The last one should be an increase, and I'll meet you back there. Okay, so now we have our last stitch. This is going to be our increase. So we're going to do our round 7. So we're going to do chain 2, turn our work, and this one we're going to do 6 double crochets and an increase. I will come back when we have to do our increase. All right, so now we're going to do our increase to finish up the round. All right, so I want to just make sure I'm comparing this. What you'll notice is as you continue to do these increases, it'll start to cup. So I'm going to compare it to the cup I made here, just because I gotta remember what I'm doing. Okay, perfect. So this is essentially what you want. If you want this to be a medium or like a B, C cup, I believe. But if you want this to be a little bit longer, you'll just keep adding more rows. Just remember that as you go, it's going to start doing that cupping thing, just for you to recognize it. But depending on the size, if you want a large, I would probably add 2 more rows of this. So then you would do 7 in an increase and then 8 in an increase. But you want to stop enough because you're going to do a double crochet row around here and then a single crochet row. So you always want to remember that this is going to also add on to your cup. So you don't want to make too many of these rows because this will also add towards it. So now that we are done with these rows, so we can actually go ahead and cut our yarn. And now we're going to go ahead and do the border. So now that we've cut our yarn here, I'm going to go on this side and I'm actually going to insert my hook through this stitch because we're going to attach our border color. You can either do a slip knot and attach it, but I'm just going to attach it by pulling up a loop and then chaining 2. And what we're going to do is instead of doing half double crochets, we're going to do, instead of doing double crochets, we're going to do half double crochets. So I'm just going to yarn over my yarn back here. So half double crochets like that. If you like, you can do double crochets if you want to make it a little bit longer. But because I have this to the size that I like, I'm going to do half double. Okay, So I'm gonna keep going, and then I'm actually gonna meet you guys right before this part. Now that we're at the part, all I'm gonna do is kind of fold this a little bit underneath, and then we're gonna do our last double crochet in here. I'm sorry, half double crochet in there. Okay, and then from here, we're just gonna do a single crochet across. We're gonna single crochet all the way around, and then we're gonna single crochet all the way through here until we get back there. So I'm actually gonna go right back in to the part where we just did our half double crochet, and I'm gonna single crochet there. That way it kind of makes a corner. And then we're just gonna go and single crochet around. Some of these that have like larger gaps, I'll put 2 single crochets in there just so it doesn't bunch up. And then you should meet yourself right back where you attached the yarn the first time around. And so what we're gonna do is just go ahead and single crochet. We're gonna do another round of single crochets. You're gonna continue to single crochet until you meet yourself right back where you started, and then we're gonna cut our yarn there. I'll meet you back here. Okay, so if you really want to make this seamless, or if you just don't care, you can continue to do the single crochets all the way into the end. But if you want to make it seamless, you can do a slip stitch on the last 2 stitches. That way it kind of mirrors this side a little bit. So once we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yarn. You wanna leave enough for yourself to weave in. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and make the straps here. Okay, so for the top strap, you wanna make sure that there are 5 stitches in between. So I like to count 1, 2, and then this is 3, and then this is 1 and 2. So I'm going to place my stitch marker here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 5, and this is where we're going to attach our green yarn. Attach it in the 6th stitch here. And then we're going to pull up a loop by attaching our green yarn, and we're going to chain 5. Okay, after we've chained 5, we're going to pull up a long tail, and we're going to cut. And then we're going to do the exact same thing in this stitch here. One, 2, 3, oopsies, 4, and 5. And then what I'm going to do is connect these at the back by going through this here. Do that first stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch these 2 together. And then that's what creates a little triangle here. And then you're going to chain 100. You want to leave a long enough tail here because we're actually going to use this to wrap around the yarn. You can either use nail glue, or you can use a needle to pull this through so that it's really strong. But you want to make sure you have enough. If you don't have enough, then you can always cut off a piece of yarn and wrap it around like that. But after you chain 100, then we're going to go ahead and make our back straps here. Okay, so we're going to pretend that I chained 100 because I actually need the green yarn for another part of my custom order. I'm actually making a skirt, so I won't use too much. But once you get your chain of 100, then we're gonna go ahead and work on the back strap. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And on this 12th stitch, we're going to insert our hook and we're going to attach our yarn. And we're going to pull up a loop. We're going to chain 2. And then we are going to make 9 double crochets. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and we're going to do a decrease. So yarn over, we're going to go into the first one, pull up a loop, the second one, pull up a loop, we're going to pull through 3 loops and then pull through 2. Okay, then we're going to do a double crochet, and we're going to do double crochets all into the end. So every start of the round you want to do a decrease, and we're going to do a decrease until we only have 1 stitch left. Okay, so now we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and we're going to do another decrease, insert, pull up a loop, insert, pull up a loop. I pulled through 3, and then I pulled through the last 2. Alright, so that was our last one. And then from here, you're going to chain 100. So the next part is to create the citrus. I'm not going to lie, this part is a little bit tricky to explain, but you're kind of going to have to play around with it until you get it to your liking. But essentially what we're going to do is take our hook, and we are going to do a lot of slip stitches. What I like to do is start off on the corner. So if you notice, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I do about 6 slip stitches in the front, and then I curve on the 7th, and then you go back down. You want to have 5 stitches in between each citrus. So you have 5 slip stitches, you have 5 double crochets in between here, 5, 5, 5, 5. This one I think has 4. Yeah, that one has 4. But sometimes you may not get the even number, so I like to start off on the corner parts first, and then I make the adjustments for these. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go as slow as possible so that I don't confuse you. What we're gonna start off by doing is making a loose slip knot. And you wanna make sure you have enough on your end, a loose slip knot, and we're gonna keep it like this. You're gonna take your hook, you're gonna insert it through the front, you're gonna insert it, and you're gonna kind of turn this over because you wanna grab this slip knot, because we're gonna actually pull this towards the front. Okay, so we'll pull it through like that. You don't wanna make it too tight because then you'll actually get the knot to come through. Now you wanna hold this too, because what we're gonna do is make slip stitches. You're just gonna go up, and you're gonna loosely pull this through, because this is what's gonna create your citrus. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, And then I'm gonna start turning it to make my 7th. It is gonna feel a little weird on your hands. So once I turn it to make my 7, and then I'm gonna start going backwards. But I always wanna make sure I have 5 stitches in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm aiming towards this. And then I'm just gonna bring it back to where I started. Okay, and then that is our first citrus. I'm gonna pull a long tail. And then what you can do, if you have a needle, you're just going to go through and just pull this through. And then you can tie this end off, and then I like to thread it through to make sure that you can't see it. That takes a lot of work. That's probably going to take you the most work, is doing like this embroidery. I kind of like to leave them untied just in case I want to redo it. So now we're going to do this to this side. So I'm going to go underneath and pull this through, and we're going to start. Give her a slip stitch. One, two, three, 4. 5. And then we can begin going straight. And then you kind of want to make it into a triangle. To make it even, you want to count how many you did on this side for this side. 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to start turning at 7. There's 7. And then I'm just going to follow the top and go all the way over. Okay, so they kind of look like that. Again, we're gonna pull a long tail. I like to pull a long tail just in case you want to start over and maybe you want to make this more of a triangle. Then you have enough yarn to do that with. Again, we're just gonna go underneath through the back, and we're gonna pull that through. So then that way we can knot it, and then we can go ahead and thread it through and hide the yarn. For these next 2, we're actually going to go into the magic circle and then come back out. So you want to count 5 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then start your next one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the next one will start here. So this goes through the front to the back. We're going to pull the loop from the back. Okay. And then you can go up or you can go sideways, whichever one is easier. And again, this one we're just going to go straight to the magic circle. Okay, so once I make it to the magic circle, so you see how mine is a little bit crooked? It's okay, I'm not gonna redo it. But then you wanna make yourself around, and then you wanna have 5 in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you wanna kinda come back in between this part here. It's probably easier if you put a stitch marker there. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where we're gonna start the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just gonna put one here. Okay, so this one's just going to be a straight line. Like that. You can also add straight lines in between. This is really where you're going to get creative on your own. Pull this through. This time I'm just going to go to the side and make it look easier to do it that way. Alrighty, so this is what it looks like, and then you can start making your second cup. I'm going to chain 2. And then attach it to the other one and slip stitch, chain 1, and then a single crochet. I'm going to single crochet on the 2. And then single crochet into the next. And this doesn't have to be pretty because all you're going to do is take yarn and wrap around it. You just want it to be sturdy enough. This is pretty much the finished result, and let me know in the comments what you guys think, any questions you have. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and tag me in any of the posts if you decide to make this. So thank you so much for watching.